Hey guys, what's up? My name is Crystal, owner at Big Energy Candle Co. And today we are gonna make a candle. I decided to switch it up just a little bit, just so you guys can get a feel for what I actually do and what my process is, so you don't feel like she's just talking about making candles, but does she really make candles? So before we get into that process, if we could just make sure to like and subscribe to my channel, click that bell and subscribe and do all that other good stuff to show your support for your girl. Please make sure to follow me on Facebook at Big Energy Candle Co. and on Instagram at bigenergycandle.co. So you know I don't like to do a whole lot of fluff, so let's go ahead and get into the video. So today we are going to be making 5 candles and we're going to just use one fragrance. Now you guys know that I had a lot of issues with the mathematics of candle making. And so that is the reason why this channel was born, because I wanted to simplify candle making as much as possible, because it's definitely not a simple process. So I'm going to show you what tools that I use. I also told you that I use I think it's called Calcs app. And that is, it tells you everything. It tells you how much, once you know the weight of the wax that you're going to use, I always do in grams, but once you know the weight of the amount of wax for one vessel, then you put that in, the weight of that wax for one vessel, you put in your fragrance load, which I always stick around 10% based off of my wax. And then you put in the amount of candles, and it tells you the amount of fragrance oils that you would need and the amount of wax that you would need to multiply those candles. So it makes life so much easier. So if you don't have that app, go ahead and download that. I'm going to try to get a screenshot of that app and put it in, or put the link to the app in the video. So I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly what I have. First and foremost, I write down everything that I do. So if things go wrong, I can always see what I did, and make the necessary adjustments. So, first and foremost, I always start out with my handy dandy, scale, and I set it to grams. And of course, you know, when you're measuring, you can either put the item on there prior, like whatever you're using to hold it prior, and you don't have to tear, or you can measure the like the cup that I put my fragrance oils in. You can measure that cup and then tear that and then put your fragrance oils in there. So it's totally up to you, as long as you get to where you're going. So we have that, we have our thermometer, we have our pitcher. I keep saying pitcher. We have our water over here boiling. I always keep my water on a low setting, because I don't like for it to heat the wax too fast, because then I feel like I'm rushing, and I don't like to rush when I make my candles. So I keep my water on like low. I get it. It doesn't do a rolling boil. I do it where it's just enough heat to melt my wax. The one thing I say about these pitchers here they are super light, so they seem to float. If you don't have a ton of wax in them, they seem to float, and I don't really like that. So I don't always use a lot of water when I'm doing my double boiler method. Now, keep in mind, I do have two melting pots, but I don't technically use those right now. I just keep it simple, and I make my batches. So I will do one fragrance out of my batch, and that's a way to do it, especially to keep from getting confused. You can do, say I'm going to do 5 candles today, I will do just one fragrance, and then I will, if I decide to do another batch of candles, then I just clean out my utensils and restart, because I find that easier for me. But one of the ways that you can do it is to melt your wax down and measure the amount of wax that you need. And that's if you're making a huge batch of candles. I always do small batches, 4 to 5 candles at a time. And that's just so I don't get overwhelmed, because it can definitely be overwhelming when you got to run and do this and run and do that. So try to keep things simple, guys. So we have our empty vessels with our wooden wicks in them. We have our wax laid out on a wax paper. I can't show you guys that. We have our handy dandy cutter. I got this at $1.25 tree. I got this there for $1.25, and it is one of the best investments that I made because it makes cutting the wax so much easier. People will sell you a wax cutting knife and you pay $10-15 for it when you can simply get this and it does the trick just as good. I also have my gloves and I have my fragrance. I think I told you guys I have my thermometer and I have my stirrer. Now, this is something else that I use, courtesy of my daughter. I have a huge one of these, but I would not do wax in it. So I use this to make sure that I get the pouring correct. So this kind of allows you to pour the wax and control it versus a picture. This just makes life easier. And you can get these on Amazon for like $20 some. So it's not really expensive. So before I start, like if you could see, my wax is in a huge slab. But I like to break it down and cut it so it melts a lot easier and it's not just this huge block of wax trying to melt for what I'm trying to do. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so I have already put the wax in the double boiler. So now we just have to wait. And one of the things I didn't tell you guys was that you will definitely need a heat gun. When I first started making candles, I kept hearing heat gun, heat gun, heat gun. I'm like, why are they using a heat gun? And the heat gun is really good if you are making candles with botanicals or stones, or if your candle tops don't really look all that good, because sometimes when you start making your candle, just to kind of show you, you might not be able to see it. Let's turn the lights down just a little bit. See, I'm transparent. This is the shit that they don't show you. So if you look, you can see the wax residue there just a little bit. And that picture is really going to come in handy to avoid a lot of that. But that heat gun allows you to, if you just rub it over, it allows you to get all the residue off of the top and make your candle look really, really pretty. These are the hacks that they don't show you. Like, they don't show you, they make you believe that when you make your candle, it's just going to be beautiful. And that is not always the case. Like, to a consumer, this candle would be fine probably, but to a candle maker, all this residue, no one would sell a candle with the residue, but I hope not. But all this residue will come off. And once that residue comes off, then you have your perfect candle. So you're going to need a heat gun. Now, I am going to tell you this. Go to Amazon and get your heat gun, because this very heat gun that I have right here, and I'm not going to say, this very heat gun is sold on a particular website for like $20 some, almost $30. And this thing is like no more than 15 on Amazon, and you get it a lot quicker than what they ship out. So get you it's called a Mofo heat tool, and I'll find that link and put that in the description as well. But this heat gun is amazing. I don't like the fact that it has this stupid short cord. I'm like, why did y'all make this cord so short? So if you can find one with a longer cord, do so. But just a regular heat gun. You don't need an industrial strength heat gun. You just need a regular, smegular heat gun. So while we're waiting on our wax to melt, let's go take us a little 10-minute break. I'll be back. So I melt my wax I get it to 160 degrees. That is based off of my, that is based off of the particular wax that I use. So the wax that I use, you have to pour that and add your fragrance at 150 to 160 degrees. So what I do is I actually melt it. I get it to 160 degrees, and then I take it off. I add my fragrance and I stir it for anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes. I always try to do no less than 3 minutes. But if I notice that my wax is cooling a lot faster, because as I said, it's colder where I set up at. So I always try to make sure to pour it at that particular temperature. So stirring your wax is critical, because you have to allow the wax and the fragrance oil to bond. So you want to make sure that you are actually following the guidelines for your particular wax, your vessel, your fragrance oil. You have to follow that to a T, guys. And that's the reason you need a company that is reputable. So right now, my wax is holding at about 150. Now, what I could do is I could bump the temperature up a little bit so it can warm, but then that puts me into rush mode. So I don't like to go into rush mode. I let mine melt completely and get to that 160 degrees naturally, and then I add my fragrance oil and I pull it off. I don't let it get over the 160 once I've added my fragrance oils, because you may throw off your hot throw or your cold throw. So all these steps are super important, which is why when you're making your candles, you want to make sure that you are not rushing. It is no rush. Perfection is necessary, so rushing is unnecessary. Another thing that I do, because it's kind of hard to always get spot on to make your candles even. But one of the things that I always do is I label my jar with a little sticky, and I make sure that the fill line is the same. So this little sticky, I would just take it, because I can see it from the other side. This little sticky, I would just take it and sit it on each of my jars. So all of my jars have been labeled, and that is where I would pour it at. So you want to just keep watching. So my wax is literally completely melted. It is holding at 150. I'll just bump it up just a hair because it's already melted. I could actually add my fragrance oil now, but I know if I take it off, then it's going to cool, because it cools pretty fast. So you want to make sure that you are just paying attention to everything you have, or that everything you have going on, because you do not want to waste any product. Make sure that your workstation is free of clutter, because I have gotten so much stuff out at times and spill a little bit of my fragrance oil, and I'm annoyed, because it's like, what the hell? You need every single ounce, gram, whatever you want to call it, you need it all. So make sure to have your workstation clutter free. All right, so now that our wax is melted and it is at a, let's see what the temperature is. It just reached 160. So what I do is I take my fragrance oil, I pour it in my pitcher. And so guys, let's see if we can get this going. Let's see. So now we just pour. Pour. Perfect. Guys, it could not get any smoother, any better. And we are done. Just like that. We made a candle, a set of candles that smell amazing. And so I spit a little on the side, but that's okay, because when they cure for 72 hours, we will clip the wicks. As I will show you in this. So you should clip the wick. Y'all know I ain't a numbers girl, right? So they say that you should clip the wick to 1/4 of an. So guys, we have just made amazing candles. If you can see, I'm not going to touch them. So you got to get the view that you get. Okay. So, you let those cure for 72 hours. Once those have cured for 72 hours, then you can trim your wicks. You don't want to interrupt your candles at any time in between that, because it can be a disaster. So I don't touch my candles for the 72 hours, and my family knows if you touch them, you get a pow pow. So once I trim my wicks, this is one of the things I do. I'm not a numbers girl, y'all. So I have it measured off. I don't try to eyeball it, because eyeballing it will have your candle not burning properly. If the wick is too long, it's gonna flicker, and that's where you see that soot. When you relight your candle, sometimes if the flame is really big and it's flickering, you need to trim off the excess, the little, if you can see in here, the black part, you want to trim that portion off of your candle so it actually burns properly. But you don't want to over trim it, because if you over trim it, then it's not going to burn enough to create a good melt pool, and therefore not giving you a good hot throw. So I always measure mine. I don't eyeball them. I don't eyeball my first cut. After that, you can eyeball it, but just make sure you don't cut it too low, because it's disastrous. So I put it here, and I done about wiped off my permanent markers spot. So I get it there, and I always double check it, guys, because I have had some nightmares with wicking. And bam, there it is, a perfect cut. So I've wicked these candles. I've trimmed my wicks on these candles that I made over 72 hours ago. And I've already done burn tests, so I'm good to go. And that, my guys, my friends, my ladies, my YouTube family, is how you make a candle. And that really didn't take us a long time. I love y'all. Remember, stay the journey. It is not always going to be easy. There are going to be times that you create a candle and it doesn't turn out the way in which you would like for it to. That is the reason why you want to have your handy dandy notebook. I write down, and this is my second one, I write down every single thing that I do. You might not be able to see it, but I really do. I write down everything that I do. So if I do have issues with my candles, I can always refer back to my notes and know what I could have where I could have went wrong. You always want to remember that if you find that you're supposed to use 206 grams of wax or 93 grams of fragrance, that you want to jot that down exactly. If you do a gram over, you want to write that down. So just so you know what I did in this. So these vessels that I have are from Dream Vessel, and they hold 206 grams of wax. And for this particular set of candles, I did 5 candles that allow me to do 936 grams. That was based off of the Calcs app, which was spot on. I used 93 grams of fragrance oil, and I have 5 vessels. And I did my wooden wicks. So that is the measurements that I utilized. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those in the comment section, and I will be sure to respond. If you need any tips or assistance, just let me know. I love you guys. And again, don't give up. Step back, but keep going. I love you. Bye.